Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala azza wa jalla sha'nuhu, with His immense mercy and blessing, have given us this beautiful day, Jumatul Mubarak, an opportunity for us to come to do the Salatul Jummah in the blessed month of Ramadan al-Mubarak. Ramadan Kareem to everybody. I recited the ayah from Surah At-Tawbah, which is Quran juz number 10 and verse number 60. It's this a lot of people have been talking about, because mostly in the month of Ramadan people pay the zakat and sadaqat and charity, and this is the time people would like to know about it. So there have been many people were questioning. Inshallah, I'll try to do in a brief time as much information we can share. If you still have any question and concern, you can always come and ask Imam Alawi for the masjid, and he will, inshallah, he's a faqih, he can answer all the questions. The meaning of the verse number 60 of Surah At-Tawbah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, As-sadaqat, which means zakat, are only for the fuqara, the poor, and al-miskin, the poor and those who are employed to collect the funds and to attract the hearts of those who have been inclined towards Islam, and free the captives, and for those in debt, and for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is mujahideen, those who are fighting in the holy battle, or for the fi sabilillah, and the traveler, and ibn sabil, and the travelers who are cut off from their everything, a duty imposed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is all knower, all wise. In this, there are 4 categories which you give money, and then they can use whatever they want to do. 4 among these categories are those when you give money that is used for a specific purpose, when you give the sadaqah or the zakat money. But the important thing which fuqaha talks about, which emphasis is, the person should be made owner of the money. In other words, we cannot not give them money and say, I am going to give you, and then consider it's given. No, it is to be, person should become owner. Once the money become property of the receiver, now it is no more a status zakat. It becomes that person's property, and he can even donate, charity, sadaqah, spend anywhere he wants or she wants. So, but then 4 people are free to do whatever they want. But 4 people are conditioned that when they took the zakat for the purpose, it is to be applied for that purpose alone. So that is something which is, inshallah, we will elaborate a little more. So sadaqah, and which is use the word in the Quran is a sadaqah, which in this particular verse is about the zakat. The zakat means it is the money given to purify your wealth. It's 2.5% of your cash value of anything which you possess. It is above the nisab. What is the nisab? Inshallah, we will elaborate. If you have a wealth equal to the worth of 87.49 grams of gold, or 615.35 grams of silver. If you had that much possession of money in your possession, today the rate of gold is $64.17 per gram. So if you multiply 64.17 with the 87.49 grams, so that will become $5,614.23 if you have that this day. Last night I checked the rate. So this will be, if you have $6,514.23 in your possession for a year, or you become eligible for that much amount of money, then you pay the zakat on all the money what you have, in all of it. Or if you have a silver worth which rate is 0.75 cents per gram. So that if multiplied by 615.35 grams rate, it will come $461.51. If you have that money, or mixing a little bit gold, a little bit silver, coming to the total value of this much amount, then you are sahib nisab. You have to pay the zakat of the money what you have. So this is a very simple calculation. If you do not want to go into the details and get into the very much of the nitty-gritty details, inshallah, I will speak of some of the more information on it. So if you have $100, you have to pay $2.50. 2.5% means, percent means put 0 next to the figure. So it's 2.5 means $2.50 for $100. If you have $1,000, it will be $25. So this is just multiplied by 2.5%. So this is how it goes. How do we pay zakat? And most people pay, as I mentioned, zakat in the month of Ramadan. And Islamically, scholar says, because Islamic calendar is to be applied, so zakat should be paid on Islamic calculation. In other words, in Ramadan to Ramadan, or whichever, Muharram to Muharram, whichever month you choose, but that day should be set up and we should pay zakat on that. So there's a question about on the silver and the gold and the land and the material of trade, livestock, plots, property, land, rental properties, cars, or if you have stores or business, how do you pay zakat on that? First of all, in Surah Sajda, Hamim Sajda, verse number 6 and 7, the one who deny paying zakat is not a believer according to the fiqh. Zakat, if it's the person who does not give zakat on the day of judgment will be in a severe punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Surah At-Tawbah, verse number 34 and 35. And when people do not pay zakat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put them in famine situation. It is a hadith from Tabrani. According to ulama, the person who denies, because one of the 5 pillars of Islam, if you deny one of the pillars, obviously the rest of the worship will not be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So scholars have concluded the one who does not pay zakah, his hajj, his salah, and his fasting become invalid. According to fiqh, Allah knows, Allah accept and reject. But for the ulama it says, if you are entitled to pay zakah, pay the zakah. Do not hold on to it. And people who pay zakah never get poor. This is something to know. Also, Surah Tawbah says in verse number 103 that whoever pays the zakat or sadaqah, it's expiation of the sin the person have committed. So it's also one way to wash your sin off by paying zakat and sadaqah. Zakat is obligated upon every Muslim, men, women. It's obligatory upon them whether they are adult or not. But they are not to be underage. They have to be adult. Okay, and the person should be intelligent, not to be mentally incompetent or what you call handicapped mentally. As long as the person has this much value of wealth, that person have to pay the zakat. Zakat cannot be given from the money earned with the interest, with the bribery, with the stealing, with the robbery, or un-Islamic haram or forbidden ways of income, and then say, well, I'm going to pay zakat and clean and purify my wealth. Allah will not accept. This is what it says. So we should earn halal and pay the zakat from the halal money to purify that. The zakat is obligatory on which items? Gold, silver, the crop from the property of the fertile land, what you call the farming, and the material inventory of the trade material and livestock. So how do we calculate the zakat on the gold? I just told you 87 gram is the calculation. So which becomes, because in the time of Prophet ﷺ, the unit of measure were different, but today's unit in America, we don't want to go into detail, there's time restriction. So just to understand, hadith from Ibn Majah, that it has to be paid on gold. And according to another hadith, that this gold which is put in safe place and it is being used, some scholars say the one which you use regularly for women, they don't pay zakat, but other scholars says no, pay zakat on all of it because it's a purification. What reason is that the value of the gold appreciate. Value of gold never depreciate. So this is why anything which appreciate, this is being written, is the hadith from Sunan Abu Dawud, Kitab of the Zakat, and it is written in that. In book of Fath Bari, it is saying that also the silver, you have to pay the zakat also, which is again, I just mentioned 612 grams of silver value, which is much less. Some scholars says go for the low value like silver, don't go for the gold, because you might have $400 for $416 rather than $5,900 in your account for more than a year. So the purpose is to help the poor. Islamic concept is make the poverty level people to come up. So give them enough zakat so they will not be seeking next time they should be giving. So this is the concept of helping people with that. It is 2.5%. Hadith of Bukhari, hadith from Bukhari, that 2.5% for every 100, it is 2.5%. That is to begin. Now, anything which get rainwater for the crop, for the land, you pay 10% of the crop. If you calculate the crop, so many value, it is to be 725 kilograms. If you have that much crop, then you'll pay 2.5% of 10% on the natural rain. Otherwise, when you irrigate, you have a water supply, water pumping system, then it is 5%. So this calculation is being agreed. On the camels, if you have 5 camels, then you give 1 goat. And on 10 camels, you have to pay 2 goats. If you have less than 5 camels, you don't pay zakat. This was the time when they were there, and there are still countries where Muslims have camels. So this applies to the livestock. The cows and buffaloes, for 30 cows, a person has to pay 1 goat. Okay? And similarly, for less than 40, for the goats, there's 40 goats, you have to give 1 goat. If you have less than that, you don't pay zakat on the livestock. So range for the goats is from 40 to 120. If you have 40 to 120 goats, or what you call the other forms, lambs, then you pay 1. Above 120, you pay 2. So this is how the calculations. Now, if you have a property and you have rented it, so the rental property, the property after you pay the expenses and whatnot, and if you earn money and it comes total calculation up to that, the rent is it what on which you pay zakat. This is according to the scholars, you pay zakat on the rental income, not on the rental property. If a person have houses and that person bought the house with the intention of trade and business, people are real estate dealers and whatnot, so they buy property and keep it. If the idea is for the business intention, all innamal a'malu binniyat, everything upon the niyyah. So if the niyyah is that one will be doing a business, buying land, selling it, buying house, selling it, then you will pay zakat on the whole deal. But if you bought a house and you rented it, or if you're living in it, so you don't pay zakat on the house, but you pay zakat on the rental income after the expenses are removed. Now, very common question, people say, if you pay government taxes, we are paying taxes in US government. Now, zakat is about the saving. We should understand. The system of taxing was established by Muslim. Original tax was tarif, which was the tax, which was Muslims, rulers established. Now, Western countries take taxes about rental tax, house tax, whatever, income tax and all that. That does not count because they provide services in the town. They give the line, the road and electric and all those systems. So that's not zakat. Some people are saying that, okay, if you pay tax to the government, then you are done with the zakat. No, that's the service provided. Zakat is for the savings, not for the service. So if I have 100,000 or 200,000, $1 million income, but if I spend all and I've got nothing, so I don't pay zakat on it. Zakat is on the saving. We should be very clear about it. If we have something in our possession for a year, from Ramadan to Ramadan, and we are still coming above the nisab level, then we pay zakat. If we are below the nisab level, so Ali radiallahu ta'ala explained it very politely. He says zakat is a tax on a rich man for being miser. Why he says that? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam never paid zakat because he never kept something in his home for long enough to be eligible to pay zakat. Same as for Ali radiallahu anhu. So it is a tax on a miser person, because if you spend it on your parents, if you spend on your spouse, if you spend on your children, your grandchildren, or even community, and you got at the end of the year, you didn't have $500 saving, according to the calculation, $461, you don't pay zakat because you spend it on whatever you did. So, but if people have put money in stock and bonds and all that, pay it every year, or at the end when you cash it, the scholar says you have to pay tax on that time. Zakat on all the years you have to pay. So it's better to do that. If somebody loans somebody, this is a little difficult for me to understand, but this is how the scholar says, and this is the interpretation. If I lend you money, and that money is adding up to my zakat eligibility. I become sahib nisab. But you have not returned me the money. So now I know you will return me. You may not return me. You know, people. So somebody's questioning about it. So if I did not pay zakat all the time you had the money, I'll have to pay all these years when I get the money. So ulama says, even though you have not collected your money, which you have given as a loan, you should pay zakat, because when it will come, you will not be paying zakat. So this is how, it's hard for me to understand, because you have a chance, but this is how the Islamic Sharia is. Not everything is as we would like to be. Nobody wants to pay zakat. But Allah says you have to pay it. It's purify your wealth. Okay. Anything which is, if you have taxi business or something, car rental business, so you will pay zakat on the business and the income from the business. But if you have your own car, you don't pay zakat on it. No matter you can have a best and most expensive and millions of dollars worth of product for personal use, there's no zakat on it. Household, anything used in the house and consumed is no zakat. Your own property, no zakat. In the beginning, when Muslims came to Syria, and Abu Ubaidah bin al-Jarrah radiallahu anhu, when he was ruling as a governor in Syria, so the Syrian wanted to give zakat on their horses. So he asked Umar radiallahu anhu, these people want to pay zakat on their horses. He says, don't take it. But then they insist upon giving, so he said, okay, if they insist upon, then take it and distribute among their poor as a sadaqah. But this is not required. If somebody has different type of like grocery stores or have a business, the food business and all those kind of business, so inventory, whether raw material or end product, on those you have to pay the zakat if you become above the level. So, but the store you will not be giving zakat on, but overall income is coming from the store, which is 2.5%. 40th part is 2.5%. If you divide anything into 40 parts, it will be 2.5%. If you divide it into 20 parts, it will be 20%. If you divide it into 10 parts, it's going to be 10%. So this is how the calculation is. The person who cannot be given zakat is your parents, your grandparents, your children, your grandchildren, your wife. And according to one hadith, wife can give zakat to husband because she's not required to provide him, and other people can give zakat to them. You can give zakat to your brother and sisters, your friends, your cousins, your aunts and uncles, but without mentioning not to make them feel like insulted. Sometimes it is considered bad to take zakat, but you can give them, telling them it's a gift. Just give them that I want, but do not mention zakat, so respect their dignity. So zakat, the people who are eligible for zakat, these are the miskin. Miskin are the person who does not have any property. Gharib is the person who does not have a place even to live, or they are poor. So there's a poverty level. Some people go in more detail. There's the one who have a one-time meal, one who have a two-time meal. They distinguish between. But miskin is worse than gharib. Gharib means poor. Miskin means destitute, homeless, and all that. And then the third person who gets is the one who is assigned by government to collect the zakat. They get a portion of it. According to some scholars, 20% of that. The person who is in debt, the two Muslims who are in debt, and somebody you want to pay off the debt of this person to get them relief from this problem, but that is a conditional, so that person will have to use it where he wants to use. The three prayer one I told you about, that the one poor, miskin, and the collector, and the people who are doing for the fi sabilillah. 4 people you can give zakat and they can turn it into whatever they want. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam received a gift from somebody about the food, and it was told that this person received this thing as a zakat. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says zakat for him, he gave us as a gift. So when you become owner, it has changed the status of the money. It does not remain any more charity, it becomes a property. This is why scholars are very insistent about having zakat as that way. Then the 5th person is giving to non-Muslim to soften their heart. So we, as we know in the politics, we can use it in certain ways to help to get the Muslim community benefits, to the fire department, to the police department, to those things to be given zakat so that they will be involved with us and protect Muslim community in general. A prisoner, any prison, if they have a condition that they should be paying this much money to get out, because God could. By the way, the one giving money to the poor, to the non-Muslim, Umar radiallahu ta'ala no time, Islam becoming strong, he says we don't need to do it. But as a rule, we can give it to the non-Muslim in that condition. Originally, zakat is always for first Muslim. Some scholars says you cannot give it to zakat to non-Muslim completely. Some are very strict about it. Some scholars says when the Muslims are given, taken care of, there's more money left, and there's a non-Muslim who is in need, provide them. Because this is Muslim way of taking care of each other. And if we take care of our family, our aunt and uncle and brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews, and pay for their education and whatnot, some scholars says world education is not counted if you pay them for the half of the Quran or Nazarah or doing the teaching of the Islamic. They are restricted to that. But when Islam was implemented, there was no medical school, there was no science school, there was no physics and chemistry, and there was no public school. But I think as a Muslim, every subject is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I personally have asked about it, but the scholars are very strict about it. They say you can only give it to the madrasa and only to the students who are eligible, and the teacher, imam, could be given the stipend for the student for the care and education. And then those who are immigrants and those who are fighting in the path of Allah, the people who are in the fight jihad, they can get zakat. The eighth person could be rich and millionaire, could be anybody. But if he's out of his country, he's out of his land where he cannot access his wealth, and if he lost his money, people can get, lost their wealth when they're traveling. So they can only get money of zakat to go back home. They cannot take money and start spending and doing a trade there. He has to go home with that money. So these are the 8 categories. There are a lot of questions about it. There are about, inshallah, with the time we will discuss on that. But the main thing is zakat should not be held back, and nobody ever got poor from paying zakat. And as I mentioned before, in Saudi Arabia today, there is a endowment and trust of Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu, the 3rd Khalifa of Islam, is still active. And it is flourishing, and they take care of a lot of needy and poor people. There's a land, there's a bank account, and Allah knows how the government or people who are responsible manage it, but that is still there. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to perform salah and accept it.